Hi folks, Greg Marchand here. Welcome to another episode of the Virtual Instructor-Led Training Program brought to you by the Service Sales Academy. This episode, I want to talk to you about building an organization of trust. This isn't just for shop owners. This isn't just for service managers. This is for everybody in the organization because it takes the organization to create trust with and unto itself. What is an organization of trust, you might ask? We all trust each other. Now, that's an environment we all want to live and work in, right? Customers trust us. The ownership and management trust us employees. And the employees trust ownership and management. We all trust each other to do the right thing and to do our jobs and do our jobs well. You can see, Google this if you want, you can see the definition of trust here. It's a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. And I don't mind this one this time. A lot of these definitions, I'm like, I don't know, I'm going to change it. You know what? That's exactly what it is. It's a firm belief, right? In reliability, in truth, in ability, in how strong the organization is, how much we believe in something. What does it look like, though, in the workplace? Because when I go into shops and work with some of the best shops in the country, I can tell immediately where there's an organization of trust and where there isn't. Because trust to me within the organization looks like everyone knows everyone else is doing their best. And you can tell that from conversations. You can tell that from organizational culture. It's not just, oh, Greg, I think. No, it's not even stated, right? Because everybody understands their role. You know your role. You know the role that others play within the organization. And everybody trusts each other to do their job because everybody does their job well. And if they don't, there's this ability to communicate. And I want to say something about this because I don't see where I've used the word communicate in the rest of this presentation. And that's probably a mistake on my part because underlying all of this trust, underlying the things that it takes to create an organization of trust is communication. And it's your ability as a person, as a group, and as an organization to communicate that is going to ensure or completely disable the ability to create an organization of trust. It's evidenced within the organization in consistently positive results. If you don't trust each other, you don't get consistently positive results. And when I say positive results, I'm talking about customer satisfaction, high gross profit, excellent productivity, happy customers, and you can see it on their face. I'm not even talking about customer satisfaction as we measure in surveys or reviews or whatnot, but I'm talking about what I observe when customers walk through the door and their interactions with you, okay? And so there's evidence of an organization of trust. Maybe you have it, maybe you want it better, but how do you get there? And I suggest that these four things are what's going to get you there. You've got to have consistent decision making. Now, notice in a lot of these videos and a lot of my classroom programs, I talk about consistency. Look, you can have consistency in the wrong thing and it's going to lead you down the wrong road. You can have consistency in some really, really good things and it's going to lead you down the right road. And then there's everything in between. Consistency creates change. Okay, good or bad. Or like I say, anywhere in between. If you consistently make the right decisions or consistently use the same decision-making process, more importantly, whether they're right or wrong, you will begin to create an organization of trust. Now, combine that with consistent problem solving because problems come up and how we solve them, how we go about thinking about solving them is really, really important. And then there's a culture of inclusivity. Do we include, I know, fancy words, right? Do we include everybody? And do we listen to each other? So if something does go wrong or there is a decision to be made, are people asked? Are the stakeholders included in all of this? And then underlying all of this, along with communication, is transparency. Does everybody know what's going on? Within reason. You're not going to know everything the boss does. You're not going to know everything the manager does. And there's some HR stuff that you can't know. But look, for the most part, are we open and honest with one another? And are we open and honest with our customers? Let's talk about some of these. Consistent decision making. Again, consistency is the key here. And we talked in a previous program about having a core organizational philosophy. I cannot understate how important, or I can't overstate how important that having a core organizational philosophy is. Whether it's something like, customer's best interests or best value for the money or customer first or whatever it might be. Go watch that video and figure out one for yourselves. But there's got to be an underlying basis for making decisions so that everybody understands this is, no matter what, whatever decision we make, this has to be the base for our decision. So that when I make a decision about how to handle a situation, maybe, you understand that I made it thinking customer's best interest always. And then if I don't make that decision based on customer's best interests, or in your view I don't, you can call me out on that and say, listen, Greg, as an organization, we all agreed customer's best interest first. Where's the best interest in this for the customer? I see where it is for your paycheck, and I see where it is for her paycheck, but where is it for the customer? And we can have a transparent, consistent discussion. There's a lot of decision factors, right, that have to be consistent too. How fast do we make decisions? Do we languish in the decision process? Do we drag this out? And do we maybe include all kinds of variables in it? Or do we make decisions quickly, right or wrong, and then come back and have a check-in about them? Hey, do we make the right decision? Should we have done something different next time? How decisive are we? And how fast do we make decisions, and how often do we make decisions, and do we change our minds too much? This kind of is evidence when you go out to maybe you have a store purchase, a retail purchase, and there's something wrong with it. You buy a TV and you get the TV home and you didn't notice the damage on the box, and there's a chip missing from the case of the TV, whatever it might be. Your screws are missing from the stand for the TV, and nobody could have noticed that. And you go back to the store and you deal with this customer satisfaction associate who looks at you and says, well, the screws should have been in the box. Well, I understand that, but they weren't. Well, I can't help you. Well, they're not being real decisive here, are they? And it's not going to become a speedy decision, is it? And you might think about, well, why? Because they don't have screws for the TV stand. They don't really know what to do. And then they got to go get their manager. Now, as this is all going on, what are you thinking as a customer? You're thinking, the heck, this is easy. Open up another box, get me some screws. But they're not thinking that. And so you need to discuss these things. And we'll talk about how in just a second. But these factors are involved in that consistent decision making because the consumer sees it, that your customer sees it. And even if you're a manager or a shop owner, your employees see it and it affects them. As a person, I want to know that you have my best interests in mind. And part of that speed in decision making, part of that decisiveness in decision making makes me understand that, makes me feel that. You want to know that I have your best interests in mind, right? And again, those factors are involved. We all want to know management has our best interests. And if we can pull all that together, then the organization should have customers' best interests in mind. And if we can talk about that and communicate that with each other, then the decision making gets better and better and more consistent. But we can't always make the right decision. We might make the wrong decision, especially if you're sitting here watching this and you're going, all right, you know what, Greg, I'm watching this because I need to change the culture we have. We don't have an organization of trust. All right. So here's the one slide you need to pay attention to, because you can't make it right. You see, when we're fixing cars, if something breaks, we see that it's broken, we diagnose it, and we fix it, and it's fixed. And it should be fixed maybe for the life of the car, depending on what went wrong, or at least until 30,000 miles, 80,000 miles, 150,000 miles, when that thing wears out again. Decisions aren't that way. You're going to make wrong decisions. Things are not going to happen the way you want them to happen. Maybe you walk into a situation as an owner or manager and I gave all the money back to the customer. But boss, I made a speedy, decisive decision. Okay, but you gave all the money back to the customer and it wasn't our fault. Now what happens? Well, You can yell at me. You can shake your head. You can say, I can't believe you did this again. I can't believe you cost money. I'm going to take this out of your paycheck, right? I mean, you get all upset about me, with me, at me. You can tell me to call the customer and say, sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, can't do this. Boss says I got to get that money back from you. I shouldn't have given it back to you. We're not going to fix it that way. Well, now what do? We just made maybe a relatively minor mistake on my part into a major customer issue where we're going to get bad reviews and they're going to tell 10 people and all that other good stuff. When I make a bad decision, if we've already gone down the road and it's too late to turn around, follow through with the decision. Talk about, okay, so why did you decide to do what you did? And let me explain my reasoning. And then talk to me about next time. Okay, I understand why you did what you did. And it was customer first. That's certainly true. And although we are customer first here, we still need to protect our organizational assets, right? And so maybe next time something like this comes up, here's a slightly different way of thinking about it. And what are you doing? You're coaching me. You're coaching me on the decision-making method of how you're thinking and how maybe I need to take into account a little bit more than just our core organizational philosophy, because it let me down that time, right? So we're going to make wrong decisions, but we may have to follow through with the decision anyway. And if we do, we talk about next time. We huddle up and say, okay, here's what happened. Here's what was done. Next time, here's a way of looking at it. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? All right. Don't reprimand me. Don't show anger. Don't show disappointment. Look, if it's the second, third, fourth, fifth time, yeah, okay, no problem. Get mad at me. But really, when it comes to consistent decision making, when we talk about creating an organization of trust, I have to trust you when I'm wrong to coach me and help me understand a different thought process. Okay. I hope that makes some sense to you, because it applies to consistent problem solving as well, right? It's directly related to decision making. When something goes wrong, how do we handle it? We've got to have that core organizational philosophy as a guiding principle for how we're going to handle decisions and problems, because problem solving is decision making, right? And then we've got to apply the problem resolution consistently. Now, this is true with employees, especially as much as it is with customers. And what I mean by that is, do we treat everyone the same? Is if an employee has a problem, is the solution applied evenly into everyone? And is it transparent? Do people understand why that decision was made to resolve the problem in that way? And if I do the same thing, is the same thing going to happen to me? And it's true for a customer too, because the thing with customers that didn't used to be true 20 years ago, that's really true now, is they have a platform to talk to each other. Right? And so if I handle your problem as a customer differently than her problem as a customer, I got a problem. Because they jump on social media and they talk about it, and the next thing you know, we're getting a bad rap because we don't have consistent problem solving within our organization, and we don't have consistent decision making within our organization. And that manifests itself in, no, not everybody is treated the same. If you want to create an organization of trust, or an organization that everybody trusts, you want to think of it that way. That means customers and employees. There's got to be consistency with an underlying core philosophy. This is why we do what we do. Okay? And then there's that culture of inclusivity, because all of this is connected. Who's included in making the decisions or helping solve the problems? Does everybody get input? And is input listened to? And I say everybody, no, it does not have to be every individual in the organization, but it's got to be all the stakeholders, all the people who deal with customers, all the people who have to fix the car, all the people who are involved in the problem or who the decision is going to affect. Because if you make a decision for me all the time, say you hey Greg, I bought you a new scan tool. Great. Hope it's a good one. Oh, it's an awesome one. I bought the best. I paid all the money for it. It's brand new too. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you haven't used a scan tool in 10 years. Just because it's brand new, it's not the best. Just because you paid all the money for it, it may not be the best. What the best is what gets our job done the fastest. And so you want to include everybody when they're going to be affected by that decision or the problem resolution. Include everybody. At the very least, make it so that I feel like my opinion counts. We have to create a culture of listening and hearing. That means active listening. Go check that one out. We just reshot that video, so go check out the active listening video, because active listening applies to customers and each other. Do we feel heard as an employee? Is there a process for which I can feel like it's okay to talk about what's going on? Is there a process in which I can say, hey, boss, I got some concerns. Can we talk about this? And do you have regular shot meetings where everybody gets a chance to have input? Because an organization of trust is one where everybody feels like they have a stake in what's going on. Everybody feels like they're a part of the organization. They understand what the organization is all about. That only happens with communication, and that's what this is really about, isn't it? We've got to include everyone at some level. We're not going to include everyone all the time. But if my pay, my work environment, my responsibilities are affected by a decision, I should be included. And if I created the situation, I should definitely be included in the resolution. So Greg, the customer's concern is this. I understand why you did what you did, but the customer's not happy and we need to resolve this. So what would you suggest we do? Because you know what else you're doing here when you're creating that culture of inclusivity? You're forcing me to think differently. In some ways, it's listen, if you come to me one more time and say the car needs pads and rotors, and then 2 hours later you come back and tell me it needs wheel cylinders or calipers or whatever else it might be because you didn't look it over well enough, I'm going to have you call the customer. And you can explain that to the customer. Well, in some cases it works. In some cases that's a little extreme. But what is it doing? It's changing the way I think. Because you see, it didn't affect me if you just called the customer back and sold the calipers this time, or sold the wheel cylinders, or sold the whatever it was I just found because I didn't inspect it well enough earlier. Didn't affect me. Hey, I got my parts, I did my job, whatever, I fixed the car. But if I have to call the customer, there's a little bit of pain on my part. I start to see that, oh, gee, you're interrupting my work because I got to go make a phone call now. And then I got to feel uncomfortable because the customer's going to be upset. And I'm no good at selling anything, but now all of a sudden I feel the pain. So you're not only asking, how do we resolve some of this, but you're also making me think differently about the organization. And that's creating buy-in. It's helping me understand the bigger picture, not just my role and my competency within that role and how I do that job, but how my job affects everybody else. So that culture of inclusivity is really, really, really important. You've got a challenge as a manager or an owner because you really do need to make sure everyone feels heard. Just saying, okay, what do you have to say doesn't mean that I felt listened to. Okay? Because I hear in a lot of organizations, yeah, that's great, that's nice. We have all these short meetings, and I got all these ideas, but really none of it ever gets implemented. Well, half the time it does get implemented, but somebody just feels that way. And part of that was active listening. Okay? You don't have to have the best idea every single time. You don't have to make them feel like they listen to or listen to every single time. But every now and then, I got to feel like I'm a part of something bigger than me, like I contributed to something. So use those active listening skills. Incorporate my input in a final decision, or say, Greg, what you suggested the other day, we considered. We actually considered it pretty good time. But we decided to go in this route. We appreciate the input. Please keep bringing it to us. Okay? So you've got to have enough people skill to make everybody feel heard. If you're an owner or a manager, it will make a difference in your organization, especially if you have trouble with trust. Now, the last thing is transparency. Look, there are some things that we can't let out because there are legalities involved. There's human resource issues. There's disclosure issues. There's some stuff. I'm not saying we have to be transparent in everything because there's some stuff that we just can't be. All right. But most things, especially when it comes to decision making and problem solving, should be out in the open. Employees are going to find out anyway. And the last thing you want if you're trying to create an organization of trust is rumor. Because rumor is rampant. I don't care if your organization's 4 people or 24 people. People love to talk, right? You've noticed this. You've seen this. Maybe you're one of them. People love to talk. And so when I say employees find out anyway, yeah, they're going to find out something, whether it's true or not. Rumors are going to fly. So that culture of transparency is really, it's about open communication. If things are going well, tell people things are going well. If you need to hit a mark, tell people you need to hit a mark. If things aren't going so well, tell people they aren't going so well. And start to create that culture of inclusivity. Because oftentimes, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Right? What comes out of all these people being transparent and inclusive around a core organizational philosophy that leads to consistent decision-making and consistent problem-solving is far greater than just our ideas all piled together. All right? That's the power of an organization. Try it. You'll see what I mean. Right? One of the tricks to transparency is that consistent decision-making and the consistent problem-solving and applying resolutions that come out of both of those consistently, right? But the underlying piece here is that we all understand why we're doing what we're doing. We understand why that problem was solved in that way. We understand why the decision was made in that way. We understand that all these resolutions get applied consistently. Now, all of a sudden, if that's in place, there's no secrets here. Everything is out in the open and transparent. I've got nothing to hide. We're consistent, every one of us, in how we solve problems, how we think about solving problems, how we make decisions, how we apply certain resolutions, how we talk about it if we did do something wrong, if we made a poor decision. In hindsight, we go, oh, I really wish I hadn't done that. Here's what happened. Here's why I decided what I did, and here's where it went wrong. So just forewarning to you guys. And then all of a sudden, we have not only transparency, but we have an organization of trust. You've got to start with the communication and the inclusion. Watch the core organizational philosophy video, really, really important, and create some consistent decision making, underlined by good communication. Create consistent problem solving, underlined by consistent communication. Okay? Decision making, problem solving, inclusion, and transparency. Think about it, talk about it within your organization. Come watch this video again. Give me a call if you ever got any questions. And until we meet again, keep up the great work and never stop learning.